a rare and balanced view on politics in today's world. Based on facts, born of rationality, common sense, and logic, providing context on today's events. This is American Perspective with Rick Thomas.
Hello, everyone. Welcome, Whiskey Warriors, and welcome to all of you guests from basically coast to coast and everywhere in between. Welcome, Americans. This is American Perspective, and I am your host, Rick. And it looks like we have the McGroin Nation raiding the Rumble chat. That is absolutely awesome. Welcome to everybody. And buddy, what you are smelling is probably the chocolate chip cookies that Mrs. Whiskey is cooking up just outside the studio here. What she doesn't know is I snuck 2 of them before I came on, because otherwise I was going to be salivating waiting for cookies. Anyway, chocolate chip cookies. She was actually craving key lime pie, which is one of her favorites, but nobody else in the family really eats key lime pie. So she decided to take a second shot and just say, okay, I'm just going to do chocolate chip cookies. She's been talking about it the last couple of days, and believe me that the studio and everything else, it smells really good. Let's just put it that way. So anyway, well, I've got a couple more things for you tonight. I know talking about, Kamala Harris and talking about, Walz is going to get a little monotonous over here after a little while, but there's some important pieces that you need to understand in order to really understand and get into the psyche of these Marxist, leftist morons and the people that want to vote for these folks. Now, tonight's going to be a video-heavy evening. I've got a bunch of video clips that I want to play for you, as well as a audio clip too. And so, yeah, we are going to be kicking this thing off right with that. Now, I haven't seen Amy in the chat yet over on Rumble, so she will probably miss this, but she is your U.S. rah-rah leader. I'm going to have to come up with a name for that. The pledge leader for tonight. Amy over on Rumble is leading us tonight in the Pledge of Allegiance. So please, if you have a mind, please stand, remove your hats, put your hand over your hearts, and let's go ahead and follow Amy along with the recitation of the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And thank you, Amy, for that rendition. We do appreciate it. Also, too, if you would like to hear your version of the Pledge of Allegiance, make sure that you get an audio recording of it, then take that audio file, put it in your email, and send it to me fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. That's fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. And you will be able to get put into the rotation for it. So, again, thank you, Amy, for that wonderful rendition. We do appreciate that. All right, tonight, of course, cannot forget, tonight is...
Down to business.
That's the nectar of the gods, baby.
Yes, it is Whiskey Wednesday. It's like Taco Tuesday, but for badasses. And tonight, I'm sad to see it go, but I enjoyed it while it was here. I'm finishing off the Wild Turkey 101. You can see the bottle is empty, but the glass is not. And right here in the glass, in the True Grit Roots Network glass, because of course that is a Wednesday thing too, it is the turkey, wild turkey 101 right here. So I've got it, and yeah. Yes. Ooh, nice and smooth. Well, sort of smooth going down. It does have a bit of a bite, I will admit, but that's cool. It's okay. I get it. It's got a bite, kind of like the blues. Why don't you take a quick break from politics and, of course, shows like this one? Relax and let the blues soothe your nerves, because everybody knows that Kamala Harris's cackle gets on everybody's nerves. So go on over to tgrn.net. That's True Grit Roots Network, and listen to TGRN Blues. You can listen to us, by the way. You can listen to us either in your browser directly on tgrn.net, or you can download our app. There's links right there in the browser, or if you already have the Live 365 or the iHeartRadio or the Odyssey, that's AUDACY apps on your phone, you can find us in their digital or their catalogs of digital radio stations. Head on over to tgrn.net, and hey, let me tell you about one of our programs for all you night owls. You know, the ones that stay up late at night or even get up really early in the morning. You might appreciate the TGRN Blues program called Night Train. Night Train runs Monday through Friday from midnight till 6 a.m. Central Standard Time here in the U.S., so you'll have to make that conversion, of course, if you're elsewhere. But when you listen to Night Train, you will hear extended plays, long cuts, and song versions that you'll rarely hear on terrestrial radio. That's one of the wonderful things about the digital radio platform. Your conductor, Ernesto, will guide you along your journey. Climb aboard, take a seat, and enjoy the Night Train. Once again, Night Train airs Monday through Friday from midnight till 6 a.m. Central Time here in America. That's tgrn.net, True Grit Roots Network with tgrn.blues. We're based out of Austin, Texas. And of course, we thank you for listening. All right, so let's get this kicked off. Okay, so first things first, just a real quick update. There were primaries that happened. I know my state had their primary, and unfortunately, the guy that I was hoping to go in for governor doesn't appear to have enough votes, because we actually have what is called the top two primaries. So essentially what happens is whoever are the top two most vote getters will advance to the general election. And this is regardless of party. So we could, in theory, have, not that this would ever happen, two Republicans advance, or two Democrats. That's more highly likely. For the most part, it seems like at this moment, most of the races have at least one Democrat and one Republican that are moving forward for that. So, yeah. So there you go. That's what's happening. Well, it's happening across the U.S. There's multiples, but one of the pleasurable things that we like to see is things like this. Oh, what? Wrong one. Cori Bush. Representative Cori Bush, you know her. She's one of the squad members. Cori Bush has lost her primary. She lost to another Democrat by the name of Wesley Bell. And Wesley Bell, by the way, just barely beat her, okay, is what I'm being told. Is that didn't win by much. But according to some sources, Cori Bush was pissed. Well, you know, that's kind of what happens when you take a real far left stance. Not only that, but she also was being investigated too, by the way, for paying her husband something like 6 figures for her security, whatever. Anyway, the fact is that this is a good thing because we have Jamal Warner, or was it Jamal Bowman? Jamal Bowman, not Warner, but Jamal Bowman, who was the fire alarm guy. He was the former principal that couldn't figure out that pulling the fire alarm was not going to open the freaking doors. Whatever. Anyway, he is also out, and I hear, and I could be wrong on this, but I heard, or I think I heard, that Ilhan Omar is facing a primary either tonight or tomorrow. And so, yeah, that's that's really going to be kind of interesting if she gets kicked out. Then you'll only have like Rashida Tlaib left over. But anyway, so that's cool. And that's good. And that is fantastic. Now, unfortunately, we do have the possibility of a Wesley Bell Democrat, replacing her and not like flipping the seat, unfortunately. And keep in mind, this is in the St. Louis area. But still, just the fact that she's gone and we have somebody a little bit different, I think is going to be a good thing down the road. Well, we're entering into another day where Kamala Harris has actually avoided interviews. She is obviously not, she's taking the Joe Biden 2020 approach and hiding from interviews and not getting in front of the cameras. And there's reasons for that, which I'll get to in a minute. But the fun thing about this is apparently both campaigns did a campaign stop in Wisconsin on the exact same day. And Vance landed in the tarmac, or on the tarmac, the same location where Kamala Harris was at with Air Force Two. And he walked up to reporters waiting on the tarmac. They were all waiting to try and get her into some sort of an engagement because, of course, she hasn't done any press junkets. She hasn't done any interviews. She's basically, the left, pretty much what they're trying to do, or her campaign is what they're trying to do, is they're trying to redefine her without her actually opening up her mouth and speaking. I told you about this before on the program, that the strategy here is to redefine Kamala Harris through all of her ads. And so what we're looking at here is Vance took the opportunity, and I got to tell you, this is like killer move. All right. He walked up to the reporters that were waiting on the tarmac to talk to her and said this: "I thought you guys might get lonely because the VP doesn't answer questions." Oh my goodness. Well, he, for those of you who are out there, and I'm talking about those of you who are on the left, you liberal moron leftists. Well, I say that I'm not going to call you liberal anymore because liberal definitely isn't the case. But the fact that he even did this is just showing you the creativity of the man's mind. The actual quote was, "I figured I'd come by. Hopefully it's going to be my plane in a few months," pointing at Air Force Two. "I also thought you guys may get lonely because Vice President doesn't answer questions from reporters and hasn't for 17 days. He continues on by asking, "Have they given you guys an explanation for why she won't take questions from reporters? Nobody? Okay, great. Well, I hope that she's changed her mind because it would be good for the American people, and I think it would be good for you all if she actually ran a real campaign instead of one from her basement with a teleprompter." Oh. Apparently, he was also asked by one reporter what he wants to hear from Harris. Vance replied, "I'd love to hear her just answer what she wants to do and also explain why every single position she has changed." And this is true. This is entirely true. And apparently there's a video that was placed out on, James Stratton, at Stratton WSN was, they were on the same tarmac in Eau Claire. And he's got the video here. I'm not going to play it because I got plenty of others to get to, but you can check that out. I've got obviously the Daily Wire news link in my show description, in the description of the video, and you can grab it there and go and take a look at the video. But anyway, this is just fantastic. It's stuff like this that, of course, energizes the campaigns and you know, gets the fight really going. So, yeah, this is awesome. This is fantastic. Well, one of the things that I wanted to point out to you, because obviously the mainstream media is attempting to revamp, reimagine, reimage, repurpose, revitalize, and recharge and rechange, and I can't even think of any more freaking words to use, but they're attempting to try and remake Kamala Harris as being some sort of a centrist or some sort of a you know, basically trying to reset her up as a likable character. Okay. And that's just not happening because of the fact that there are videos that are out there, all kinds of videos that are out there. I mean, I've been like downloading videos and getting little video clips and stuff like that put together in my repertoire here for the major parts of the campaign that have all shown that she is just horrible when she gets in front of a camera without having a speech being written for her, which, by the way, even when it is written for her, she still has problems speaking in front of people. Okay. And so, yeah, it just doesn't seem to, I mean, she's horrible. She's horrible at this. Well, here in Red State, this is amazing. They had a jaw-dropping video of Kamala where she is talking and boasting about power. Now, this was back when she was a prosecutor. And you remember that the left is talking about how she's a tough prosecutor. Well, I've got some questions about this. I have some questions with regards to these, you know, this kind of thought process and where she is thinking with this kind of thing. So here, I'm going to go ahead and show, and hat tip to Red State, of course, for getting us this video, but I'm going to show the video, and I want you to listen to the video, and then I've got some questions to ask about after this.
The power I have as a prosecutor is that with a swipe of my pen, I can charge someone with a misdemeanor, the lowest level offense possible. And by virtue of that swipe of my pen, you will have to go to a courthouse and stand in line. You will have to come out of pocket and hire an attorney. You may get arrested for a few hours. You will be embarrassed in your community. You will miss time from coming onto the Google campus. All because with the swipe of my pen, I've charged you with a crime, which I may choose to dismiss 2 weeks later. It's an incredible amount of power. And you want to make sure that the people who have this kind of power are taking seriously the responsibility in terms of understanding, as much as anything, the impact on the people who will be affected by that.
Absolutely.
You know.
Now, I just have a question with regards to that. I thought the law sort of dictated what someone could get charged with in terms of what law was broken, and how egregious that law was broken determined that. I didn't think that it was something that the prosecution or the prosecutor could just make it up or throw it on some sort of a piece of paper or whatever. That I thought that she had to follow the law. Well, what's even more increasingly disturbing about that video is the fact that she seems to be taking joy in the idea that she has the ability with the pen to go ahead and do that. She doesn't seem to flinch at all, really, with regards to the fact that the choices that she is making could potentially, harm, or in this case, help. Now, keep in mind, she has been trying to remake herself as some hard-nosed prosecutor. And that, honestly, is, if she decides that all of a sudden she can just change it and, you know, make it a misdemeanor or even drop the charges completely. Now that, being able to drop the charges, that is up to prosecutorial discretion for the most part. Okay, so that honestly, I can see where she can choose not to charge somebody versus charging somebody. But at the same time, though, it's sort of like she's making it out to like, I have the power and control. I will keep you in line. And for a Marxist such as she, that is exactly what she is after. She is after power. She is after control. She is after making sure that you, the non-elite individual, you take things seriously the way that she wants it. Now, if you honestly think that she's thinking about that when she was a prosecutor, do you honestly think that she's not thinking about that as being our executive? Do you want somebody with that? Do we want somebody with that kind of an attitude? That, hey, with a stroke of my pen, because I'm the president of the United States, assuming she gets into office, that with a stroke of my pen, I mean, you recall when Obama did the same thing. Well, I rule with a pen and a phone. And Biden, of course, seems to be along the same lines because he's ignored the Supreme Court. He's ignored the Constitution. He's ignored the separation of powers. She's just following right in their footsteps. Is that what we want for America? No, that is not what we want for America. All right. Well, was it last night? No, last night was Tim Walz. The night before, we had talked about the question with regards to whether or not Kamala was black. She's not. I proved that out. And if you want to see what I came up with in terms of the proof, you can go and check out my Monday's show, because today is Wednesday. So my Monday show, which basically outlined the entire thing. She is not black. She is Indian. And of unknown descent, by the way. She's Indian, meaning Asian Indian, and of unknown descent. All right. Now, that being said, apparently this guy who had Biden on, if you recall, during Biden's 2020 campaign, where he basically said, meaning Biden, said, if you don't vote for me, then you ain't black. Well, Charlemagne the God has showed up, and he is supposedly confirming Kamala Harris's ethnicity, even though he kind of questioned it at the same time 5 years ago, I should say. Sorry, not last year, but 5 years ago. So here, take a listen to this.
I'm glad you mentioned Barack, because a lot of black people question if Barack was black enough. I see them doing the same thing to you. So what do you say to the people questioning the legitimacy of your blackness?
I think they don't understand who black people are.
All these conversations about what's black, who's black, forget all that. You know, how you going to put money in people's pockets? How you going to keep people safe? That's what both candidates need to be talking about over the next 95 days. We all know Kamala Harris is black, and we all know she's Indian. And we also know Donald Trump is a bigot, and we know he's divisive. I don't need the media running Donald Trump's greatest hits over and over for the next 95 days.
Well, I hate to tell Charlemagne the God this, because he obviously isn't paying attention, but Kamala's not black. Her father doesn't identify as black. He identifies as Jamaican, but that's only because of where he was born. That isn't because he actually descended from Jamaicans. In fact, in some cases, and again, if you go back to that show that I put together 2 days ago, he identifies as being from Irish descendants and some unknown origins. So there's nothing there that indicates that she's black. And her mother, by the way, is clearly 100% Southeast Asian Indian. That's her own claim. That is exactly what her claim is. So there you go. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense whatsoever why these people are jumping on the bandwagon saying she's black. She's not black. She is a person of color, though, but she is not black. Now, the other thing, of course, that Charlemagne the God has pointed out is that Trump was a bigot. I seem to recall Reverend Jesse Jackson, Reverend Al Sharpton, and several other black leaders who backed him and were happy with him when he wasn't running as a Republican. This is they for whatever reason they just want Trump out, and I just don't understand why. Well, enough about her, realistically. Let's move on to the wonderful introduction last night in Philadelphia. This great thing. I mean, God, all of the socials were talking about this for just an amazing amount of time. They were talking about, these two are just absolutely wonderful. And I talked about Tim Walz yesterday with a lot of the problems that he has. I actually have a couple other things here tonight that we're going to talk about here in just a moment. But let's just take a second and listen to their introduction that they had at this wonderful rally that occurred in Philadelphia, where she went to introduce her running mate. But this was, of course, before this. But take a look at how kind of cringy this actually is. And I'm not just talking about the way that Kamala Harris is talking. I'm talking about, check out Walz in the background, too. Just take a listen and watch.
Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Good evening.
That was 6 times saying good evening. She could, I mean, okay, look, I've done public speaking more so than just this, but I've done public speaking in the past. And I'm going to tell you that it basically is such that that she just, I mean, oh my gosh. You don't stand up there and say good evening, 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 good evening. You say it once and then just start speaking. Everybody will settle down. You know, if you want to hear the roar of the crowd, okay, great. You can sit there and you know, listen to the roar of the crowd for a minute. But that's all she did was good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening. And of course, she's standing there smiling. And if you noticed, if you looked in the back, Tampon Tim freaking reached up and like grabbed something from her jacket, from the back of her jacket. He was like looking at her, and he kind of like, and then he goes over and he pulls off something from her jacket. It just really. And did you see the way the guy clapped? I mean, he looked like to me, he looked like that monkey, that wind up monkey with the cymbals. You know, smiling. Yeah, with all the yeah, yeah. Talk about two really cringy individuals, okay? And this is what the left wants us to put up. I mean, seriously. He just Now, the left has been calling this duo they've been calling them, they are the joy campaign. They are, you know, the happy campaign. No offense, folks, but I don't want happy. I don't want joyful. I want to know what the hell you're going to do to correct this economic disaster that we have going on, and also make sure that you tell me what you're going to do with all of those illegal aliens that have crossed our border, of which close to 100 of them are known on the terror watch list at a minimum that we know about. I mean, I don't get it. I just don't get it. How can anybody jump on this bandwagon and think that these people are good for America? They're not. Speaking of whether or not somebody is good for America, this came up, and if anything talks about, I'm going to tell you, if anybody talks about how bad Walz actually is, Tampon Tim actually is here, this does. Ilhan Omar was apparently elated with Harris's Walz Veep selection. Well, it's not just her, by the way. The Democrat Socialists of America, known as the DSA, they were ecstatic about this. Now tell me, how is this guy supposed to be middle of the road, moderate, I don't even know. It was a C word that was centrist, I guess. There's no way. There's no way that this is, I mean, this guy is left as left can be. Now, as you know, an old show called the Mark K Show, he had a manifesto, and when his number one manifesto thing was that if the left is happy, you shouldn't be. That was his number one rule. And I got to tell you, it's not happy when you have somebody like Ilhan Omar, who is Somali, and actually lives in Minnesota, comes from Minnesota's 5th district. So she knows about this guy. Yeah. Speaking of her being Somali and living in the 5th district, Tim Walz changed, and I have it on great authority, that he actually changed the flag of Minnesota not by legislative edict, but by basically just by changing it. He didn't even get a what do you call it? He didn't even get the legislation to write it off. So here, take a listen to this, or take a watch to this cringe video where he announces it.
All right, ready. Whoa, wait a minute. There, that's better.
Now, for those of you that don't see this, that are on the audio portion of the program, that basically was, he walks behind, he has the old Minnesota flag behind him with, of course, the American flag as he's sitting there, and he goes, whoa, wait a minute, and he gets up, moves the Minnesotan flag, the old Minnesotan flag, out of the way, and brings in this other flag that looks like and is very similar to the various Somali flags that are across the world. And there's about 5 or 6 of them, by the way, that are all kind of close to one another. And he puts it behind him and basically has that as his announcement of the fact that the flag that he chose without what I would consider the people's vote, he chose to just switch that out. Telling you, this guy and his cohorts, including the one and only Kamala Harris, they are literally looking to control us completely, 100%. Well, there's another angle that I didn't talk about too much last night with talking about Tim Walz. I kind of focused a lot on his stolen valor that he did with his being saying that he was retired as a command sergeant major. He wasn't. He's retired as a master sergeant. He never completed the command sergeant major training or the requirements to be a CSM for 2 years. He says, and he has said this multiple times, that he used certain weapons in war. He never went to war. Okay. He never went to war. And he also was referring at the time to the AR-15, which factually stated the AR-15 has never been used in combat at all. It's a semi-automatic weapon, and semi-automatic weapons are not used in combat. But don't let that stop you. Then he also, it talks about, like I said, that he went to war. He actually retired, or in some cases, some people say he ran away. Okay. He ran away when his unit went off to Iraq, and, he just dropped him. Now, again, if this was a private or even like all the way up to an E4 where it really didn't matter, probably wouldn't have been that much of an effect, but he did it as being the leader of over 500 troops. 500 troops. And he walked away from them when they, in their time of need. I'm sure they weren't happy about what was going on, being headed off to Iraq. It's just absolutely horrible. Well, one of the things on Tim Walz's record, of course, is that he neglected Minneapolis during the BLM riots. And here, I just want to show you, this first video is reportedly as it was happening. Some of the news anchors couldn't even believe that he wouldn't even answer the call. Take a listen.
And I want to also add, I've been texting with our news director while we've been on the air saying, I know you have a request into the governor, anything. And they are refusing to make any kind of statement right now. Listen, we know they're busy, but I can't think of anything more important right now than explaining to us why we are allowing this to happen again.
And once again, we are asking the governor, we're asking Mayor Fry, what is the plan here? You said there was a plan yesterday. You said there was a plan for today. And in both instances, we haven't seen.
And tonight, it seems even more inexcusable. You can understand how last night maybe got away from them. They didn't know what was going to happen.
Well, they gave up the 3rd precinct last night.
And to tonight not be able to respond to this, it doesn't make sense. I wish someone would explain to us the thinking behind this. Surely they're having these conversations about what we are going to do if and when. What was the conversation around this? If this started happening again in the 3rd precinct or in a different precinct, was this the plan? This was the plan, to let it all happen again in a different precinct? And if that was the plan, why? I mean, there must be a reason that you would say, we're going to allow this to happen. So please, Governor Walz, Mayor Fry, explain to us what the plan is.
You can hear in that individual's voice, in the anchor's voice, it's like they're confused. They don't seem to understand what the hell's going on. And I got to be honest with you, I suffered the same questions. Now, granted, I wasn't close in, but when the Chaz/Chop, whatever they wanted to call it, area that's got set up in Seattle, it was the autonomous zone in Seattle that got set up, and the police were driven out of their precinct that was there, and they essentially just abandoned it, and the gangs moved in and freaking blocked off like a 4 or 5 block radius. I can't remember exactly how much, but they started patrolling it themselves, and somebody actually got shot. A kid got shot in the autonomous zone. And, the mayor of Seattle at the time, she literally just was like, I don't know. I mean, it's the summer of love. That's where that phrase came from, folks. That's where that phrase came from. It came from the stupid ass Seattle mayor. And then when the governor of the state, who is still in, Governor Inslee, thank God that he's gone. He's decided not to run again. But Governor Inslee was asked about the Chaz Chop area, and he blanked and was like, well, I never heard about that. I never heard about that. It's just a complete effing moron. But that's what these people do. See, Tim Walz was one of those people that was just like, hey, I'm good with this. This is fine. Just let it burn. Speaking about letting it burn, hat tip to libs of TikTok for this short clip. Take a look. That short clip, for those of you who were on the audio portion of the program, was showing the destruction of Minneapolis, the burning of buildings in Minneapolis. In fact, hat tip to, I'm not sure who this came from, but hat tip to whoever put this together. Now, it's got some dorky music in the background, but what I really want you to pay attention to is the destruction that occurred with this.
It's just a cigarette and it cannot be that bad.
Honey, don't you love me and you know it makes me sad.
It's just a cigarette like you always used to do.
I was different then, I don't need them to be cool.
Now, for those that are on the audio portion of the program, basically what they did is they compared the locations and did a before and after video of what the place looked like. I'm guessing the befores were actually videos of, or they appeared to be videos of like Google Earth or something, or not Google Earth, Google Maps or something like that. But when you take a look at the before and the after of these photos, Tim Walz and the mayor both just allowed them to burn down literally thousands. Well, I won't say thousands. I'm not exactly sure how many locations, but hundreds of places, and took out all of those businesses, housing developments. There's so many videos that are out on the internet, folks. So many videos that are out there that have people, victims of this, of that horrendous tragedy. And what did Tim Walz do? Nothing. Tim Walz actually even said, well, why would I call out the National Guard? All I'm going to do is pit a bunch of 19-year-old cooks out there. Folks, that's what they're for. Look, for those of you who have not served in the military, I served in the Army, so I can tell you this right now. No matter what your final military occupational specialty is, okay, no matter what it is, every single one of members of the military have their base, what they call their military occupational specialty. We are all 11 Bravos. And what is an 11 Bravo? An 11 Bravo is simply an infantryman. That's what they are. 3 Chevy even points out on Rumble with regards to this. As soon as I can find my cursor here. 3 Chevy points out, Walz's wife even opened up her windows in order to smell the smoke, the tires burning, because she had to revel in the fact that essentially, and excuse me, I'm using George Orwell's 1984 speak here, but the proletariat, the proles, stood up and fought against the elites. That's what Marxism is. And she had to smell it. Yeah. Yeah. These freaking leftist lunatic morons we have in front of us. Harris and Walz being the most radical combination of morons ever to run for political office. See, this is the thing, is that we, being in the service, you all are, your basic function is to operate a rifle. That's what it is, to go into battle and operate a rifle. Okay? That's what your function is. Now, I was comms, I was communications. So my secondary operation was to keep up, in my case, telephone systems in the field. That was for me. And different people have different purposes. But the reality of it is we all go through the same basic training. We all go through and get rifle training, marksmanship training. In my case, it was on the M16A2. But that's what the military is for. Whether it's a National Guard or the regular Army, that's what it is. You just don't understand. Him refusing to send in the National Guard. Now, the first night being caught off guard, I totally get it, okay? But after 3 nights of rioting and not one National Guardsman actually got brought out. They had already lost a good portion of the city during the BLM riots. That is just awful. And the fact that he did nothing, he sat on his heels and did nothing. Just like when he got those orders to take off to go to Iraq with his troops. He said, I'm not brave enough. See ya. Wouldn't want to be ya. You're out here. That's what he did. And I'm sorry, but him, I don't care if he spent 24 years in the National Guard, 25 years, whatever he said he did. Nope. Not gonna do it. Horrible, horrible thing. I don't care. Just like on January 6th, and that's the other thing that people don't understand in terms of the National Guard, they would have had to have the local civilian, in this case, the governor, would have had to declare the state of emergency and, of course, call them up, because that's part of what the National Guard does. And in this case, the mayor was calling and saying, help us, and he didn't answer. Yeah. Anyway. Just total disaster. Well, he's even worse of a disaster, and I actually got this clip thanks to Mark Levin's show last night. I didn't even know this existed, but take a listen to what what Tim Walz says about his understanding of the wonderful document that we have called the Constitution and how the Electoral College and our senators function. Listen to this.
The Electoral College seems very undemocratic to me. I mean, I think at first blush, but it also was an attempt to unify the less populated areas to try and give some voice. Now, those who would say this, the state of Wyoming has about 500 and some thousand people. They have less than in this congressional district. But the 2 senators from Wyoming have the same clout as the 2 senators from California. And the Electoral College system and how we divide that representative proportion is a challenge.
Okay, I'm going to drop a dime. I'm going to drop $1. I'm going to drop $100 of knowledge onto Tim Walz. The Electoral College was created for one simple reason only, and that was to avoid the idea of a populace vote. In other words, the Electoral College is one of the reasons why we are considered a constitutional republic and not a pure democracy. So that's number one. Okay? The Electoral College was designed to make it so that the general populace of the country, and make it so that states, highly populous states like California, New York, and Illinois, which, by the way, I'm calling out those three large major cities, LA, New York City, and Chicago, that the three of them couldn't get together and run the rest of the entire effing country. That's what the Electoral College was supposed to stop. But here's the kicker. He talks about the senators having the same exact power. It's designed that way, moron! For those of you who may not understand, the Senate was comprised of representatives that were chosen by each state's legislature. The senators were not, by original design, supposed to be elected on by the people. The House of Representatives, which is known as the People's House, is where that gets taken care of. The Senate, which is considered the upper chamber of Congress, was designed to represent the state's interest, not the people's interest, the state's interest in the federal government. And it wasn't up until the 17th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution that was ratified in April of 1913 that the senators started being elected by the people. There's a reason why there is only 2 senators from each state, and that every state has the equal representation. It was to make it so that states such as California couldn't override the interests in the people in the Senate, couldn't override the interests of a state, small state like Delaware or Rhode Island. That's what the Senate was supposed to be. But they went ahead and passed the 17th Amendment to get rid of that and make it so that the senators were actually elected by the people. And now these stupid, moronic, lunatic, leftist idiots who don't understand the Constitution, who don't study history, who don't understand American history and how things came about and why they came about and why they are in being, they are trying to get all of that taken care of and eliminate it all. Because what they want is what they consider a pure democracy, which is actually mobocracy, which essentially means that states, again, such as California, New York, and Illinois, because they happen to have the 3 largest cities in the United States, can run the entire effing country. That is not a constitutional republic. As Ben Franklin is often quoted as saying, that's 2 wolves and a sheep having a discussion and deciding what to have for dinner. And that is a bunch of shit. That is not our constitutional republic. And this guy is reportedly a centrist? No. He's a complete effing moron. All right. Enough about Tim Walz. Hey, let me tell you really quick about this wonderful thing. If you like the programming, you like what I'm doing, please help support the show by going to, let me get the ticker up, by going to store.americanperspective.online, and you can check out all of my logoed gear. You might want something, for an example, like this. This is my logo t-shirt. This is logo number 2, I believe. I have 3 3 different variations of logos, and you can get them all at store.americanperspective.online. Help support the show. I always feel bad whenever somebody like gives me like a Rumble rant or something like that, because to be honest with you, I don't want to just take your money. I would rather you get something in return. And so because of that, I have things like my Low Good Gear store. I have things like selling, the U.S. Constitution booklet in the Saddleback leather. I do that because you guys can still support the show, but you have a fantastic way of getting something in return. And so do me a favor, head on over to store.americanperspective.online. Take a look at what I have. It's not just t-shirts. I've got tank tops, sweatshirts, crew neck sweatshirts, and things like that. And you can go and take a look at all of them. Take a look at the styles. I've got them in all kinds of sizes too. I'm fairly certain there's a size for just about everybody in the store. So go and take a look at store.americanperspective.online. That's store.americanperspective.online. And by the way, I'm really not trying to gouge you either in terms of prices either. Okay. So go and check it out. Store.americanperspective.online. And I thank you for the wonderful support that you guys are all have shown me throughout the years. All right, let's take a second to walk away from the disaster as candidates. And tonight, I think I'm going to go over a little bit, so please bear with me. I want to point out that now we have a problem. Again, not so much that we didn't have a problem in the Middle East, but now we have even a bigger problem. There's a report out there that is saying that Iran is actually receiving Russian air defense systems amid Israeli tension or Israel tension. All the tensions in the Middle East, they're looking to protect themselves because apparently, and again, they have told the world that they will respond to Israel in terms of the reasons why Israel went and killed one of their Hezbollah and Hamas leaders. And so, yeah, they're just, they're getting a Russian air defense system in order to be able to hopefully protect themselves from any kind of blowback from this. Also, too, Biden and the Pentagon have once again shown their ineptitude with foreign politics. So here, the Pentagon has decided to abandon a $110 million military base as a African regime takes over. Now, this African regime is militaristic in nature. We did have at the time, apparently, there was a democratic government in place that had been overthrown. And now we're looking at dropping off a $110 million military base. That's what it cost to build it, by the way. It cost, according to the Daily Caller piece that I'm reading from, it also cost around $30 million to maintain per year. And yeah, so this is just our foreign policy with Biden and Harris in the office is just absolutely horrible. And also one more thing really quick before you head off into other places. You'll recall that on Monday, there was this huge drop in the Dow Jones Industrial Average, over 1,000 points. There was a huge drop in the NASDAQ. There was a huge drop in the S&P 500. And the left kept saying, oh, no, this is just a market correction. Well, they kind of on Tuesday, there was a little bit of scrabbling back, but they only scrabbled back maybe 300 points on the Dow Jones Industrial Average. I think it was actually just under 300 points. Well, here we are on Wednesday. The Dow Jones drops another 230 points as Wall Street's attempted comeback seems to have fizzled out. Yeah. So, unfortunately, the Dow closed and dropped another 234 points. The NASDAQ Composite, which dropped 500, that was the first time in history for that, dropped 171 points. additionally. And the S&P 500 also dropped 40 points today. So it came the day after the three major stock indices clawed back from some of their losses. But anyway, so yeah, this is just ridiculous. And Nana of JJS points out that I am remiss in not having a pet of the week this week. I have one in stock, but I kind of are in the hopper, I think, from 3 Chevy. But unfortunately I forgot to put it together and time ran out on me. So I'll have to pick that up next week. My apologies. All right, folks, that is it for me this evening. Do me a favor, if you enjoy the programming, you like what I do, make sure you head on over to Rumble, because Rumble is the free speech alternative to any other platform that is out there. Head on over to rumble.com, get yourself an account if you don't already have one, and while you are there, make sure that you pick up and follow the American Perspective channel. Also, too, if you're already over on Rumble, do me a favor and hit that thumbs up button. It doesn't cost you anything, and it helps me. It helps me to gain the leaderboard, because I'm looking forward to that. I'm also looking forward to being an editor's pick over there on Rumble. If you happen to be on YouTube or Facebook or X, hey, I'm good with you hitting the thumbs up over there too. I appreciate that. That helps me out. But obviously, Rumble is the free speech alternative to all those places and is my decided home. Other than that, I will see you tomorrow night, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on American Perspective. All you whiskey warriors and all of you guests, please have a great evening. We'll see you tomorrow. Good night, everybody.
The previous broadcast was produced and is owned by Active Eye Media LLC. All rights reserved.